Hello and welcome to 21st Century Vitalism. This is a podcast exploring how we can best maintain a sense of energy, inspiration, and wakefulness while navigating the often challenging and uncertain circumstances of the modern age. My name is Brett Kane. I'm going to be your host on this journey as we have a multidisciplinary conversation with a wide variety of people from all over the world. This typically brings on spiritual teachers, somatic therapists, artists, environmentalists, pretty much anyone who I feel is walking the walk in doing it well. And doing it well, today's guests are. So we're going to be joined by Sean Dunne and Cass Greener. They're independent filmmakers, fellow podcasters, community builders, and the popes of the Church of Chill. In this conversation, we explore their newest film, Wild Magic, in which they take us on a cross-country journey exploring all of the nooks and crannies of America where people are really diving into their unique magical and mystical practices. We then take some of these principles and apply them to how to orient in these really insane times that we find ourselves in. So this really has a lot from every one of my favorite themes that I explore on this show. These are two folks who I really recommend diving into the content of. Their Variate podcast is just such a good hang. Really one of the best parasocial relationship podcasts I've probably ever tuned into. You really feel like you're just sitting there hanging with some homies, and there's something about that is really important in today's times. So that's what we're going to be doing today. It is a fun one. I am really happy with how this one turned out. I love every time that I've talked with them. You can catch our first episode from a couple years back. I don't even know when that was released. It was a couple years, but they are back, and we are doing it again, doing the dang thing. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you want to support this show, head on over to patreon.com/21st Century Vitalism and consider signing up. I get it. The market is insane right now. So if money is not the best way for you to support, I respect that. I appreciate you. Head on over to YouTube and consider subscribing, liking the video, doing the whole thing. If you want to find Sean and Cass, I'd recommend going over to Variape TV. Or just going on YouTube and listening to their podcast, or signing up for their Patreon and joining their really cool community. It's a really fun time. They got a lot of interesting people that you can interact with. So if you are in need of community, I really, really recommend it. And we all, frankly, are in need of community. So that's it for today's show. So please sit back, drink some tea, do some stretches. Most importantly, just open your heart for Sean and Cass. Sweet. Sean, Cass, we are now live on the show. I just want to start by saying, as always, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. It's great to see you guys be in the same space again. It has been a couple years since you've been on. So just to start off, how are we doing over there? Where are you guys right now, too?
We're in the Hudson Valley, about an hour north of New York City. This is where we live, an area called Peekskill, if anyone is familiar. So yeah, I'm chilling in an office in the Hudson Valley, and we're doing good. We're doing really good. I think, we're pregnant with a lot of ideas, and hopefully the resources come our way to make them, and that keeps us hopeful.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I think just bringing in the energy of the world as a backdrop for this conversation, because there's some pretty wild stuff happening, in our society that we're living in. And, I really wanted to juxtapose that with a film that I just watched of yours that was shared with me that has not released yet, but I think is so compelling and so kind of important, especially for people who are really struggling with what is going on in our society. So that's Wild Magic. And, the theme of this, of exploring America's magical thinking that spans from coast to coast, I think is a really important reminder as we are all kind of glued to our phones looking at the shit show that is our politics right now. So I just wanted to kind of bring both of those energies simultaneously up because I think that it's hard to take one out from the other. And to just kind of ask, like, with this film, I guess, what inspired you guys to kind of take this kind of work on and, you know, really commit to this?
I mean, it's partly everything you just said. You know, we're extremely sensitive people, and we're extremely aware of the circumstances in the world right now. And you come to a place where there's nowhere else to turn but to the unseen world. So um, the unseen world unites us all. It's it's something that we can all kind of play with and imagine together. And so we wanted to pay tribute to that, and we wanted to kind of make a film that is the antidote to otherization, trying to call in wholeness and oneness, and make people feel connected, and maybe glean some wisdom from people that they were otherwise trained to ignore. And so we made a film that I think of as like a kind of like a living oracle, like a tarot deck. There's many different characters along the way, and it's a journey. And I think it's a roadmap for how to explore mystical Americana, because that's what we did. We just hit the road, just hoping to find pockets of light. We really went out there with no plan other than to listen.
Wow. When did you guys take that journey?
Uh, the journey, I guess, started in 2020. We were with our friend who we met up here at Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, Alex and Allison Gray's, the psychedelic artist place, visionary artists. And we kind of just stumbled upon this guy, and he just started talking in light language to us. And we were just very taken aback. And he started healing our friend and all this wild stuff. And we were like, "You're amazing. We have to make a film about you." And that kind of birthed the idea of wild magic. And obviously, that was in 2019, and then 2020 things changed. At the beginning of 2020, this was our plan to go and film with him. And so what happened, because life changed so much, it put the pause, but it expanded our scope. And it was like, okay, instead of just focusing on one magical mystical man, we're going to go find all of the magical mystical men, or many magical mystical men and women. And he's part of the film. And his life changed very much. He now has a new baby and things like that. So it was that was the beginning. We filmed pretty much half and half, 2023 and 2024. And it was two significant road trips where we...
Two like 5 or 6 week journeys into the void, the territory, just going out at first with our friend Joey Lipstein, who was our cinematographer, and then he wasn't available, so then Cass started shooting it, and that really opened us up. We're just us two could go out. I could run sound, she could run camera. We'd never done that with any film before. So I think in a weird way, now that Cass is mentioning it, the pandemic happening really served this film, because I think it would have been probably a banger of like a 15 or 20 minute film out there about this one guy. But like the way I think about it now is like, that's too good of a title. That's too good of an invocation to like just put on one person. So we wanted it to blossom a little bit. And I think that the time allowed it to blossom. And then miraculously, our friends Justin and Aaron came to us, and they're these big Marvel directors. They did like Loki season 2, and
Wow.
they're currently did Daredevil Born Again.
Holy
And
shit. Okay.
they came to us and they were like, "We want to fund your next project," and we pitched them at Wild Magic, and they took it.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, it was very magical and weird, and dropped out of the heavens, out of nowhere. And I think that, that's when I really, when they came along with the like, here's money to go make that project, which is something I thought we wouldn't get to make for a long time. I started to think of wild magic, even the term, as an altar that we needed to decorate. And all I think of an altar, to take the idea of religion off it, like an altar is just coordinates for spirits to land and to visit you. And it's kind of a place to concentrate that energy. And I think by coming up with that title, Wild Magic, we were kind of creating like a metaphysical altar that when we just kind of went out into the territory, not knowing what we were going to do, those spirits and sweet, generous souls kind of found their way to crossing paths with us. So I think of this movie as like 10,000 little miracles that took place. The fact, like, if you would know about how we met any one of the individuals along the way that's in the film, it would shock you. And I think that's kind of what's really cool about it, is that like anyone could do this. This film is kind of meant to train your eye to how to find this and how to see these people and how to listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really amazing. And I think like the listening to them is a crucial part of that, because I think people who are kind of more plugged into like general society would probably gloss over a lot of these people. But when you really hear their stories, there's so much richness in a lot of what brings people to their own magical ways of relating to the world. And some of the things that bring people to it seem very common. It seemed like there was a lot of people who were really emitting this like real sense of joy and mystical like wonder. But when you open up a little bit on what they have going on, like there's so much trauma and like suffering. And I always found that to just be really interesting, how there were these similar threads between all of these people's stories, and the way that they would express what their realization was so distinct, but there was these just similarities. And it's just interesting how like the human organism, when dealt cards that are kind of challenging to play with, will end up generating meaning, and then actually find a way to interface with reality in a way that feels more direct. And there was something about that, like no matter what anybody was saying, I mean, their practice essentially was like listening a lot more deeply to what's going on and seeing and interpreting meaning from more things. And all of that was just fascinating, like that kind of similarity.
Well, you really get it, because like that's even on a meta level how we made the film.
Mm.
And it's just really training your ear to listen and listen a little bit deeper. And approaching just America as a whole as our like place that we could possibly fish for these spirits. You're inviting in a lot of like disparate points and disparate stories, and like that's all represented here. But what I'm always listening for is the similarity. And kind of and we've done this with other films. It's like when you start when you're doing an ensemble documentary like this, and you're interviewing people from all over the place, when you start hearing similar themes pop up, you should listen for that, because that's the thesis of your film. And kind of went like, it took a while. It took a while with this one. I think it wasn't until really Cass and I were out there on our own, like the second attempt at this, is when we really locked it in, where it's like we're so locked in and dialed in on what the spirit of this is, and where this needs to resonate, and how the frequency it needs to vibrate on, that we could go up to anyone. And kind of that's what I wanted this film to be. That's why we don't like lower third people or tell you like who this is or where they are or anything. It's just like the context is you stumbled across this person and you got a few minutes with them the same way we did.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of the movie Waking Life a little bit. If you've ever
Yeah,
seen that, about like lucid dreaming, there is a dreamlike quality where it's like where the hell are you guys? You're just like in a desert by this shack that's painted purple, and this guy's telling you this stuff. Now you're at a bus stop talking to, like, there's just like the way that scenes were connected. Now it's snowing, now you're in the desert. All of this, it really gave it a otherworldly sense that I actually really appreciated, because it allows the viewer to just kind of like turn the logical part of their brain off, instead of like trying to structure some beginning, middle, end. You're just like in the moment with it. It's really confronting in that way. And I think like the delivery mechanism of that actually made it more potent.
I really appreciate that. Like Linklater is our favorite director,
So
um,
good.
our favorite narrative director,
Yeah.
and we've always been in awe of Waking Life, and like that was something that he wanted to make for 20 years before he was able to actually do it. And like it felt like a really culminating thing for his spiritual development. And that's how this felt for us. This when we thought of the title and we got the funding, we were like, this is going to be our magnum opus. Like we have to go for it. There can be no half measures on this one. And so, but what we learned from Waking Life is that you can do this dance and you can connect all these conversations, and it's like it's really valuable. So we said, what if we made the documentary version of Waking Life? And that was
Well, I love
probably
that.
hands down the biggest inspiration that we could have. And not only that film, but Linklatter's approach to life and art. And yeah, he's got about as much heart as any filmmaker I can think of off the top of my head, and it hits deeply with us. Not just that film, but like his film "Everybody Wants Some," about like a baseball team getting together for the first weekend of college. Like all of his films are charged with the messages the Waking Life is the potent dose, but it's throughout all of his films. So he's one that came before us, and we're trying to take after him in that way. Like I want all my films to kind of feel the way Wild Magic feels, but I'm not gonna be able to ever be as on the nose about it again as this one. And I think he
Yeah.
probably felt the same way with Waking Life. Like, here's my chance to get these
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
concepts across.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And I want to go back a little bit to kind of what you said about the importance of like listening. And that's kind of how you approach the film. Because that's something that I think, talking about our society at large, especially as we're all glued to our phones, every morning's a new horror show. I think when we are in that state, when we're taking in content in kind of a linear fashion, we have headlines, which then get logged into our brains that we then carry with us throughout the day. And I think we really are in a crisis of not listening to the environment around us. And I think we're kind of disconnecting from the immediacy of our relationships and our immediate communities. And I think that that's kind of by design. I think that that keeps us in this kind of locked in, more compromised mental space. And I think that the tactic has really been to get us kind of disconnected from this natural tapestry of connection that is always there, and the tapestry of magic that is like interwoven with us. So I think that the film does a really good job of also highlighting that quality of listening. And these every single person you talk to, I mean, like I said, like there's like an immediacy to their life that I think a lot of people would find difficult to manage. There was the one gentleman who was just driving around and he had the trailer with his like costumes, and I think he was like the math professor who, like, lost his child. And the, I don't know anything about that guy's life, but the way that he was currently living was like very immediate. It's very, he's there, and I think that that's just something that is going to be a part of the antidote for us to be able to make it through the next 4 or more years.
Yeah, it's about staying in the moment, and it's about kind of resisting that, for lack of a better word, like the popular liberal mindset right now of like we can't have joyful moments. We can't be, because you see what's happening, and I think that that's wrong. I think we're not meant to be taking in as much as we take in. So we're like, we're bombarded, we're overstimulated, all of our receptors are all blown out. And like we quit news media, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now, 9
Wow.
years ago, when Trump first got elected. Saw what it was
Yeah.
doing to me. I felt what it was doing to my soul, and we had to put it down. And it's a hard thing to step away from because it feels important. But you step away from it and your life just gets better somehow. And I think, like you're saying, you connect to more of the immediacy of your surroundings and the people in your life and the relationships. And I think by giving up this thing that just is really just designed to get its hooks in your nervous system and be controlling you from the inside to get you to be a better consumer, like why would I pay any mind to those mechanisms? Why would I pay any mind to the machinery that produces those results? So, you try to start to build out a different realm. You start to work on rendering out a new paradigm where, and it's about reclaiming something that we already know. It's about reclaiming family, community, connection, those kind of things, like simple stuff that gets echoed in the film in much more eloquent ways than I could put. But yeah, I've seen way too many victims of media narratives, and it can get the best of people. And I know that because it's gotten the best of me in the past. It's like I'm not above it. I have to quit it. I literally, to not allow this thing to control my life, I can't participate in it. I can't pay attention to it. And for a little bit, you feel like, oh no, am I not being an upstanding citizen? This and that. And it's like actually holding a peaceful vibration and not allowing, you know, capitalism to extract joy from your life is like a pretty big win. That is being radical.
Yeah, we've very much more oriented our life to the garden we can touch. And we have family that needs our support in a very like real and immediate way. And we are there much more than we ever were. And I see the changes in our lives, in our families' lives, in our communities' lives, and what we have to offer, because I just get to this place where I know what's going on a macro level, and I became very tapped into what my mission is here. And the mission remains the same: to promote peace and harmony and love and community, and offer people a way to connect with each other. We have a community where people can connect from disparate parts of the world who don't have local community, don't have friends and heads that think about life differently. And our mission here is to create media that allows people to feel more connected, increases compassion, shows a different way of being in this world. And when it's not like I don't know what's going on, but there is a clarity of mission that I think you get to a certain age and you realize what you offer, and then you just focus on that. And that's what we're doing. We've been focusing on the mission that we feel like what our talents and gifts and life is oriented us towards, in service to, ideally, hopefully, the greater good for all.
Yeah, I mean, it's about like everything Cass said, but it's just like as simple as like we're two people that can amplify beauty, maybe where other people didn't see it. And I think if we do enough of that, it's a process of illumination, enlightening. And yeah, why not spread light? Why not spread love? Like, and all love is, the way we see it, is just an increased feeling of connectedness. So if it's just simple like that, our films can be love. Like they can be like a cinematic form of love. It's just you'll feel a little bit more connected after watching this.
Our idea with this film, Wild Magic, was, I mean, this is not a deviation from what we do. We go to maybe off the beaten path and get people's stories and share
The fringes.
and essentialize their energy. But what felt like a little bit different with this one is that there's a spell being cast on the audience if they're open and receptive to hearing and feeling it, a different way of living, and an invitation to presence, an appreciation of the depth, the grief, what is possible if you listen to the trees, a healing that's possible if you align yourself with that. So I know for myself, I need this film. And every time I watch this film, I'm like, oh, I needed that. I've seen this film hundreds of times at this point, and every time I sit down and watch it, a different thing resonates with me and a different reminder. And it's not like lofty. And I think what's beautiful about what Sean and Kathy Gatto, the editor, did is they took these simple energies and simple moments and simple experiences and simple expressions and framed it in a way that is such a sacred reminder.
Yeah, and you know who didn't make it in the film? Anyone that felt like they were trying to sell something. Anyone that was pushing an ideology or a specific anything. I wasn't interested in it. The best example is we were on our way to go film up at
Temple of Gold.
The temple, it was like called the Palace of Gold in West Virginia. It's like the biggest Hare Krishna temple outside of India, and it's in West Virginia, and we were very excited to go check it out because we know some devotees in the area who we filmed with, and they were cool. But on our way to go up the mountain, we stopped to get gas, and there was this guy who was just singing happy song, this little Bangladeshi man who was singing happy songs, and Cass was like, we got to go film him. And we went in, and he talked about how he had a motorcycle accident and almost died. and he was in a coma for 14 months, and he feels like this is his bonus life, and he's just here to spread joy, and he just wants to remind people to be happy and positive. And what didn't make it into the film is anything we filmed up in that holy place. The places that are designated and the people that have self-anointed, the priest class. We're trying to dispel any of that stuff in this film. This is a democratization of spirituality. This is a reclaiming of the magic that you have in you right now. You don't have to pay anybody, you don't have to do anything. It's in you right now. It's about tapping into it. So I think the more potent reminders of those things do happen at gas stations and truck stops, and weird little, like, campfires, and the guy you passed on the road, and a drum circle, rather than in churches and temples and synagogues and with gurus and priests and witches and wizards.
Well,
real people.
Not that there's not beautiful people in those places, but there's a power structure that can kind of corrupt or create politics and an energy. And we're looking, like, that's the wild part of wild magic. It's the unstructured. It's the
you couldn't find these people if you tried.
Yeah, or you find them everywhere.
Yes, exactly. But these specific people, they were in the wild.
Yeah, at some point we had this wild magic with a K at the end, and then we realized, after we talked to some witches and the wizards, that this is not ritualistic magic. This is not something you necessarily need to study for. This is something that if you are reminded by whoever it is that can unlock that for you, it's accessible to anyone at any time, anywhere, in any moment.
Oh, it's stepping outside of your door each morning into a mystery school, and and life is the curriculum, and you stick with that long enough, and you start to realize, like, wow, my life is a sermon. My life is actually a really beautiful, blossoming piece of art that makes other people feel a little bit more at home here. And if we can make films that make people feel that way, or at least try to, like, that's our spirituality. This is our religion. Documentary is our religion, I would say,
Yeah, I really appreciate the accessibility focus that you have on it, because, I mean, life is inherent wisdom just by perceiving whatever it is that's around you. There's so many messages based on, like, your unique circumstances. You just have to look, and, like, how do you relate to a tree? Like, that has a teaching for you. It's just like, do you have like a little aversion? Are you relating it to something from your past? Or are you just there with a tree? And there's also something, it's almost like, as I was watching it, my focus was like, it was on the people, but it was almost less the people, but more like the environment, the circumstance of the meeting. And, like, that's where I think people get really hung up on, like, the forms, and they're trying to look for, like, the most perfect form to get their teaching. So a lot of people go towards the priest class or people who have a lot of credentials, but it's like, it's the current that brings you into connection with the person. Like, that's just a form that's going to come, that's going to go. But, like, the thing that you can form a real relationship with throughout your entire life is the current. It's the thing that is moving you along, that's kind of like unseen, but it's always there. It's always operating. And if you can connect with that more than any one teaching, then the teachings, they come and they go, and it's like water going through your hand. Like, it doesn't really matter. There's nothing to hold on to, because the moment you do, it's gone. And you can just kind of rest in that. Like, even like this interaction right now, the fact that we're sitting here hundreds of miles away from each other, this moment will pass, but there's a space, there's something happening, there's a play of energy. And if you can just maintain, like, what is the play of energy without it being manipulated, and can you just stay connected to that in whatever form it takes, and then that's it.
Beautifully put. Really beautifully put. You're obviously very tapped in.
Yeah. What was I just gonna say? Also, I think another thing that I really appreciate about your approach to the current times, this is something I'm always trying to hammer away on for this show, because I'm in a particular headspace. I am still, I'm a little addicted to news media right now, and I know what it's doing to my nervous system. It's like, it's kind of a gross thing, but I know that a lot of people are right now. And I really think, like, the best thing that we can do as people, and this is the approach that I've had for me, is just, I keep a foot in, but then I also balance my nervous system. And to me, that is like the most effective form of resistance that we could possibly have. And I think however you need to find your way to that. That to me is like the most liberty enhancing thing that you can do, because there's so many forces trying to dysregulate your nervous system. So I really appreciate, I mean, your mission. I mean, you say like I'm not paying attention to any of that, but you're honestly responding to it a lot more effectively than people who are glued to it. And I think that understanding your own relationship to it and what you need to do to put out love in your unique circumstances, um, yeah, so I just think that that's very important in today's times, because there's so many forces trying to get you off your center, and they're
Mm.
doing it intentionally. It's a science. They've got it locked down.
Oh,
You
yeah.
turn on Fox News, and what is it? It's just fear, 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 fear,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
or
and
MSNBC or CNN. And
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, it's same as it ever was, and it's going
yeah.
to stay the same as it ever was. And I think I don't think rage gets more people in the party, and I think
Hmm.
we need more people in this party. The party that is not trying to extract resources
the
and
party that's a party.
and take advantage of people and that sort of thing. We need the others. We need everyone to show up. There is a script that can be flipped once we all become attuned to our overconsumption. There's a way in which we can take our lesson and apply it to our lives, and I think that's what we're trying to do, because we're probably a bit older than you. I feel like we've had this time where it's like, okay, am I a better person when I'm paying attention? Have I ever changed someone's mind? Have I brought someone over to a side of peace by telling them that they're an asshole for not being peaceful? Like, it's just never happened for me. I've never brought someone into the fold through anger, and I'm not saying that there's not a place for protests and not a place for resistance and divestment and all that stuff. I believe in all those things. I resist in my own way, and I do not have any judgments for how other people do it. But it's very much a personal conversation that we have to have with ourselves and the stock that we take about what we put out and what we get back and what we want to see in this world and how we can see more of that.
Yeah, and I think like if you zoom out and kind of take it out of the realm of the day-to-day headline stuff that's meant to like kind of like keep you small, and I think if you zoom out and just look at it as like the forces of dark versus the forces of light, like you can kind of see what it is and be like, okay, cool. Well, what can I do to shed light today? What can I do to illuminate things a little bit better? Because I see look, everyone else saw that headline too, and it's dark one. But what can I be in the face of that is what's kind of become more interesting to me in life than like just echoing the fears endlessly, because it's like that to me, that's the forces of dark. And, like very often, and I mean every day, my dad is warning me. They're coming for it. They're coming for us. They're coming for everything. They're going to take this. They're going to take that. There's this they, and they're coming for us, and they're going to take things. And it's all he can talk to me about, and it's Chicken Little energy. And I had to finally stop him and say, whatever it is you think they're coming for, they already got, because I can't have a normal relationship with my dad. That's a
Wow.
lot more than whatever the little, oh, they're going to come after the veterans thing, and then this and that. That may or may not happen, but I lost you a long time ago, because we can't talk about anything real. We can't talk about anything pertaining to life, not just fucking fairy tales that are very temporary about this current administration.
I get to the place where it's like, yeah, they are coming forward, and I've known this for a long time.
So
So,
why are we
I'm not
relying?
like, I'm
Why
just
are we
like,
relying on that government? So let's become less reliant on that thing. And how do you do that? You don't do it by like resisting the empire. Make another one. Make a different one. I think that's the only way to do it, is like carve out new paradigms that are much more inclusive and inviting. And like that's what I can do in the face of something that seemingly tried to crush me. Well, just divest from that thing. I'm not playing that game. This thing's trying to crush me. I'm not playing its game. That's a
Yeah.
big form of resistance, and it, like Cass is saying, it's going to look different for every person's life. for us, it's making work that amplifies beauty in the face of extreme darkness, because we're aware.
I also know that the dominant news media makes money by pharmaceutical ads. And why do they have pharmaceutical ads? Because they're making us feel sick and disconnected. Why are they making us feel sick and disconnected? Because they want us in a state of constant anxiety and fear. And that doesn't mean there's not stuff to be fearful for, but there's a deeper integration you can do about grief and fear that doesn't have you in a fight or flight response. It has you in we don't respond well when our nervous system's attacked. And right now, we really all need to respond from a calm, cool, collected place that's responsible and mature. And I think that is first and foremost, we need to calm the fuck down in order to do that and make these bigger changes in our life. Because right now, with all this fear, we think we need something. We need to medicate. We need to medicate this pain. We need to eat the thing. We need to watch the thing. We need to scroll the thing. We need to make sure that we don't feel bad, even though, but we have to feel bad. So we can't feel bad, but I feel bad and you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
We all know it too well, you know? But we need to grow up, and I'm not saying you or anyone listening. I'm saying I need to grow up. I'm working on growing up every day, and becoming a more of a. We don't have kids. We don't plan on having kids, but stepping into a matriarch role as far as leading by example, feeling into how do I, for my family, keep a calm, cool head so that we can prevail and make sense of the changing tides of this universe.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah, I like this notion of kind of a new form of resistance that hasn't really been seen before. Because if you really think about it, I mean, we're still dealing with the same shit that we've always been dealing with. So clearly, the traditional plans of attack haven't really been working out for us. So I like this idea of divesting and actually creating something new. And it is interesting because it's really hard to kind of package that and sell that to mass groups of people because like you said it's going to be different for each person, so it really requires people to do some deep investigations into who they are and how their energy is best serving the collective. And I think that right now the packaged response to this is to go to social media and post and try and convince strangers on the internet that what they're believing is wrong and that everything is terrible. But it's like, who is it that actually profits from that kind of resistance? And it's like the same people who are actually the ones who are perpetrating the thing we're resisting. So, the response isn't going to be something that is given to you. It's something that you actually have to kind of uncover for yourself. And yeah, it is scary because it also is going to force you to really meet yourself in a way that we've honestly been avoiding as a society for a really long time. And I think like sensitive folks such as yourself and myself, we have the advantage of having found our ways to something like a psychedelic, or we've had the ground pulled out from under us at least once before in some way. And I think a lot of people they cling very hard. They're very tense and resistant to any sort of real fundamental change because it's scary, and nobody wants to feel scared. And I think that that's really kind of like the undercurrent of a lot of conservative kind of thinking is like we have to conserve, we have to avoid change, we have to really just kind of like hold on to what we know. But what we know has gotten us to where we are. So this
Mm.
idea that yeah, we have to create something new, which I think I have hope. I see like your documentary, and I see that there are people out there who are integrating life in a way that is creating some beautiful things. And I think the more we key into that, like the resistance can be beautiful. The resistance can actually be a joyous
Oh yeah.
thing, and it should have dancing and it should have art and color and connection and love. And I think right now what we're seeing is more of a reaction. I think a lot of people a little caught off guard because they really haven't been paying attention to American politics in general. Like
Mm.
this is a new form of it, but it's the same energies that we've been dealing with. And when you know that, it's like, well, of course they're doing this, like this is what the game is,
Yeah.
but those who have been paying attention, it's just like, yeah, this is what it is, and it's always been this way.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of like where we're coming from. It's like I hear people being like, "Oh my God, everything's getting upended, this and that." And it's like, "Oh, geez, if you thought you had any ground to stand on, you're such a privileged person. You thought you had ground to stand on? You thought, wait, You thought our government was working for us before like 3 months ago when fuckhead got elected? Like they weren't. It's a war machine. That's what it is. And we consent to it. And we're in an attention economy. And we consent to it with our attention. And we fuel it with our attention. And if there's ever been an administration that needs attention, and this jackass that's in charge and his little billionaire assistant, they need our attention. They thrive on it. What's the best thing you could do to resist? Start paying attention to something else. Don't pay attention to it at all. We don't even say their names. I don't give a shit. Oh yeah, what's the new thing that fuckhead's trying to do to get my attention? Guess what I'm gonna do? Pay attention to me. I'm gonna put my fucking oxygen mask on, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm in a good place, and I'm gonna connect with people, and I'm gonna talk about things, and I'm gonna make that not be my social currency. And that's slippery territory for some people, you know. Like I can feel people cling to like, oh, I'm not allowed to talk about him anymore. Like talk about him all you want, but make a bigger point. You know, get real with yourself. Like, get real with yourself. If you are one of these people that are panicked right now, God bless your heart, but you've lived a privileged life where this thing hasn't gotten to you yet. And so good on you. But like, this is how it's always been for a lot of people. You know, the feeling like there's no ground to stand on. I'm living my life on the edge of precarity. No one cares. There's no hope, and there's nowhere to turn. Yeah, that's how it's been for a lot of people for a long time. And we know that because, you know, we humble ourselves to go out to communities that are other than ours and talk to people and really listen and see what they're going through. And yeah, I mean, I think the least interesting thing ever to me right now is focusing on the day in, day out particulars of this administration. It's like, it's not our work. I think it's our work to tell stories and shed light. And, you know, we kind of stay in our lane. Because when I mess around and I do the other stuff, you know what I do? I lose people every time. Because you're going to say something unpopular, because you're either not going to say the thing that was far left enough or far right enough or whatever. Like, I don't give a shit about that spectrum. I care about human beings. So, and I don't care what they believe. I really don't. I don't care who they voted for. I'm not hung up on that shit. And it's a really nice feeling to be on the other side of that. And the funny thing is, you get to the other side of it and you're like, whoa, there's a lot more work to do. It's just in other realms. And it's really good work, and it's necessary, and it helps people.
Yeah. I think, you know, we really get caught up on, you know, who people voted for and why they voted for them. But I think when you really take a step back and again, keying into that notion of listening, you know, people are motivated oftentimes by the same thing that drives them to both sides of the political spectrum. And fundamentally, a lot of people really just want stability. They want time with their loved ones. They want good outcomes for their family and their friends. And they just think that there's different ways to getting there. Sure, there are racists and there are people who are really caught up in whatever head trip that they're in, but I think it is far less than we like to give it credit for.
I
Everyone
think,
that I know on a personal level is more looking for like stability and they just kind of bought into some con man's thing. But it's like if you're able to connect with that kind of like heart intention, you know, I think you can actually again like reconnect as human beings. And then you're a lot more likely when you're not pushing your agenda to actually touch them in a way that will like get them to like pause and think about cause and effect of what it is that they're supporting, but it's not going to be from a place of trying. You know, I think that that is got us really, really disconnected from each other. And I think that that is one of the things that is a benefit of doing the work for yourself.
Totally. Well said.
yeah, that's where the be your own shaman lifestyle comes in, you know. It's where it all folds in on you. All the stuff that you're putting so much energy into focusing on out there is actually going on within you. You start to pay attention to those processes a little bit more, and you can start to see like exponential growth in your life. But I think that overinvesting your attention in all this other stuff is how you feel like you're constantly walking a tightrope, and that things are never going to get better because that's what that thing's trying to convince you. And like, you know, we're very privy to it. We live in a household where the news gets blasted from multiple TVs 24/7.
Yeah.
Any attempt to mute it or turn it down or turn it off is an affront to America. You know,
Yeah.
like everything, like what you don't want to know, how deep a shit we're in right now. I'm like, oh, no, 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 I'm very aware. And I'm aware from traveling this country. But what it also made me aware of is how much hope there is and how chill things are.
I think also the deeper level of this rage is grief. And so we kind of just go into like, all right, let's process and feel the grief. Let's feel how we're hurting each other. Let's feel how we're disconnected. Let's feel it. Let's feel it. Let's feel it. And move forward from there. And yeah, there's a lot of temptations to get us from to not feel our impact and our imprint and everything like that.
Yeah.
Including patriotism. You know, if you
Mm-hmm.
live in this country and you're not aware that your tax dollars are going to eradicate people in other countries because they're messing with our money, then you're living in a fantasy. That's what's going on. That's what you're paying taxes for.
Yeah, we stopped believing in the American Empire a long time ago.
Yeah.
We believe in the American people
More than ever.
more than
Yeah.
ever.
More than
but-
ever.
Yeah.
We're survivors, and more than ever, people in droves are turning into the people that are appearing in our films. More than ever, you could just go out your door and find somebody that will spit some mystical wisdom that like used to be something that you would have to go to a fucking temple or a holy man to acquire. And now it's really like you feel everybody's getting the upgrade because we have nowhere else to turn. You know, when there's nowhere else to turn, there's magic. And shit, that just opens up a whole realm that makes the things that we're talking about and investing in that world seem so petty and small and actually within our control, even though it doesn't seem so.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the emphasis a little bit earlier you placed on attention, and it's such like a weird thing to try and like quantify the gravity of attention and like how it can actually power things and embolden people. You know, like what you were saying with like, these folks in this administration, they really do need everybody to be looking at them at all times, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And you have to kind of pause at a certain point and be like, what is it about this attention that is so desirable for so many people, and why, if it's so important, am I giving it away to the worst possible people in our society? When what happens when I bring it into my own life? And I've for a while thought about attention as being synonymous with love. Like when you are in love, you are just totally with that person. Time disappears, your stories disappear. You're just in this moment, this exchange that ends up happening, and like that's your complete undivided attention. And it's like we only allow ourselves to really have that when we're in love in a romantic sense, or when we fucking hate somebody. They consume our attention, and it's like, why? That capture. It's like, what if we were to take that energy and again bring it to the flow of our lives in our own unique energies, in our own unique ways of expressing? And yeah, what happens at that point? What are these people going to do? I don't know if you guys have seen the new Nosferatu.
No,
Okay, well
I
then I
want to.
guess yeah, it's amazing. Well, I'm not going to say what I was going to say then, but yeah, I'll shelve that for later. We'll have to talk when you guys watch it because
Okay.
there's something in there that's really um, interesting. Um, but yeah, just this notion of attention and how it's been modulated and stolen, and
Well,
how
they're
it's so
attention
easy.
vampires. That's what I mean. I know where that's Nosferatu coming in because
Yeah.
just like that's what like our dear leaders are attention vampires, and there's never going to be enough. There will never be enough. They're insatiable, and you know that because they've accumulated so much money. They're insatiable beings to begin with, and they want your attention, and they will tantrum, and they'll play the villain, and they'll play the hero, and they'll grift and shapeshift their way into trying to cast as wide a net to pull in as many people's attention as possible. And just becoming aware that they're thriving on it and they need it to live, like, makes me say, I'll deprive that thing of the thing it needs to live, because I don't think it should exist to begin with, let alone thrive and live and get fucking praise or any attention at all. They don't even deserve my hate, because that's just another form of love. Just callous, cold indifference. I don't care.
Yeah. What do you think? What is it that gets somebody on that path of needing attention? Do you think it's like a fundamental sense of like they don't feel like they're real and they just need other people to like validate that they exist and that they're embodied, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it always goes back to like your relationship with your parents, and I think, if
Yeah.
your parents didn't have the time to give you a lot of attention, you're going to go seeking it in other forms, and like that's something that really needs to be deeply imprinted on you from a young age, and that's why it's such a responsibility to be a parent, because you have to give it all to your little one, and I'm not saying pay attention to them 24/7, but care, to really to care, to that, that's what makes people feel connected, like someone cares, like someone gets me, someone understands. And there's lots of ways that can get imprinted on an infant and a toddler, a kid coming up, but I think it probably all goes back to that. I think a lot of the people that need attention on that level are, probably had pretty fucked up childhoods, and there was a deficiency, and they're just trying to compensate for that deficiency. And there's a myriad of ways to do that in our society. And the socially acceptable ones are politics and business and exploiting people and all of this type of things. And, I think that those things should just become less socially acceptable. That's the things we got to kind of zoom out and start to ask ourselves as a society, is like, not only why are we praising someone like Musk, but why should they be allowed to exist? Why is that? How do we have a system that would allow one person to accumulate so much while taking from others? While exploiting people's labor, subjugating entire countries, completely stripping places of their resources. And we're going to praise that person. We're going to allow that and then praise them. Get the fuck out of here. Not me.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm upset I even said his name.
Yeah. I felt that the moment you said it, you're like, oh, you got me. Yeah, well, I think I think it's probably a reflection of the fact that a lot of people have those same core wounds. So they see other people who've really pursued it to its logical conclusion, and they're like, well, maybe there's hope for me. Maybe I can capture everybody's attention, and then maybe I can feel substantial.
Yeah.
And I think that there is like a little bit of a worship that comes with that because people don't have the attention to
Yeah.
give to themselves.
Well, I mean, like, I judge success based on happiness, not like accumulation of stuff that you can't take with you. So to me, it kind of shocks me that like billionaires, and just like what are they're to me, they're sick. They're sick people, that they're held up. Even our whole culture of celebrities, like, these are sick, twisted people, and we hold them up as pillars of society. Celebrities think they can tell us like what to buy and who to vote for and shit. And it's all coming crashing down. Like I said, people are waking up. People are stepping into the new dimension. There's something new being birthed, and there's nothing that the apparatuses that are currently in charge can do about it. And it fucking kills them. And it fucking kills them. And if there was a way to outlaw magic and burn witches, they would. But instead, they'll try to control us on other levels. And a lot of people will easily submit to that. And I just think we should be a little bit more resistant. Even if you happen to find yourself charmed by billionaires or whatever, get off that shit. You know what I mean? Go get charmed by an artist. Get charmed by somebody that puts something good into the world.
I like what Mr. Rogers says, is look for the people who are helping. And there's a lot of people in our communities who are helping each other, and they're there for us,
Yeah.
And they deserve that kind of attention.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that they're terrified of this change, but I actually see them as like a mechanism of that change. Like this is just like a really long game of cause and effect, and this is the logical conclusion of what that unchecked momentum is. We're at like the fever pitch of what that worldview produces. And I think that naturally people are going to get a really strong taste in their mouth. It's going to be really bitter, and it's going to be like, wow, this actually sucks, and a lot of people are miserable. So like we have to look for something new. If like this
Yeah.
is the peak of Western civilization, then like maybe it's time that we try something else out, you know?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of beautiful stuff that's being possible because of social media, and that's probably why they're trying to end TikTok or whatever it is. Uh, people having awakenings of like, oh, I couldn't shop at Target for a month. I realized I didn't buy all the shit I didn't need anyway. And actually now I'm not going to keep buying shit. Oh, we're not supposed to buy Amazon on this day. Oh, wait, do I even need to be buying all the stuff that I'm buying all the time? You know, there are these ways that change is being motivated, and it is an exciting time in that way.
Yeah, I think that's why we chose to be born now, is because we're strong-willed people and that found each other, and we're both strong-willed individuals, and then we found each other, and we both love people and documentaries and like I said, amplifying beauty, and you know, whatever it is your mission, like get on doing it. I wouldn't get on being like, oh, well, what I need to do is take my corporate news medicine first. Like, no, you know, and
Yeah.
it's weird. Like you have to go through this like this detox, you know, but it's a really nice thing when someone starts bringing up the stressful news of the day and you didn't know about it and you don't
Yeah.
care. It's a beautiful thing because you could get to bear witness. You're like, wow, this is like fucking your day up and I'm fine. Hey, that's my hard work. That's
Yeah.
my resistance.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm sure there is. I mean, there's always that pull, when somebody kind of brings something to you and they're like, "This sucks, doesn't it?"
Oh, we
And
don't
like they
go there.
really want you to like jump on the ship with them, and it's like I understand the impulse because like people are suffering and they want like a resonance with somebody else who is going through the same thing, but I think it also, when you don't go along with it, you just kind of mirror back, and I think it's kind of frustrating when they're unable to make that leap of energy. And I think it does cause someone to like raise a question. Usually I think a lot of people kind of double in and like, well, they're bad, because I mean, really, it's just their own feelings of badness kind of bouncing back to them. Um, yeah,
But
and I mean, what's up?
I was just going to say that's where you as an individual, and like this is something we've taken on, is like become the drug, like become the tab of acid. A tab of
Yeah,
acid is very indifferent to all your opinions about this stuff. You know, it'll just fucking cut right through with its message, and it'll hold space and where you need to come back to. And it's like, be the tab of acid. Somebody wants to use all of the current like whatever the today's headline is as social currency, and it's meant to bring you down. Resist it and make sure that they know that you're not going there because you actually care about keeping your nervous system intact.
And maybe I think this is the conversation I always have to have because I'm always in mediating between Sean and his parents. Sean is not an asshole. He knows what's going on. Like he
yeah,
might even
yep,
have really processed this because I look at the people who are very enraged by the news media and I just think, well, what today are you doing about it? Has this rage led to positive or any impactful change? And for some people, that is their work to pay attention and write laws or change politics. But if it's not, and it's just to yell at your son that he's an asshole because he doesn't know exactly the latest thing that he's being uh,
Told to be scared about.
told to be scared about, whatever.
yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of conditionality for how much I would recommend somebody pay attention. I think it's, for me, like the metric that I've taken is like pay attention as much as you are actually affecting the situation. Like if you're somebody who is actually going to like make a practice of calling your senators, your congress people, you're offloading some of the energy that you're taking on by viewing that stuff. But like if you're just taking things in without doing any sort of action, that's going to offload you. You got to be able to act. You got to be able to express the energy that you're taking. And I think some people's paths, thank God for them, that they are actually, that's just what they're drawn to do. They're like, I'm going to be a constitutional lawyer and I'm going to fight these bastards. And it's like, that's their service to the world. It's not for me. And you have to know who you are and what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to be taking all this on. It's going to get in the way of what you should actually be doing. But if you have the space to have a civic engagement in a healthy way, then I think like, yeah, pay attention to what you can affect. But
Mm.
it's a balance that everybody has to make, and I think most of us are tilting toward excess than we are, and it's just very novel. There's something addicting about it. I think like we're addicted to rage as well, and indignant,
Oh yeah.
it's
Totally. And it's like, I think a lot of us know what we should be doing and we're not doing it. So maybe first start with doing the things that we know we should be doing and putting into, we're not integrating, every day we're taking the acid of what our reality is, but we're not integrating it. We're not saying, okay, I don't actually need the amount of stuff. I maybe don't need to be eating animals all the time or whatever it is. Personally, you see enough things on the horrendousness of the farm industry, and you integrate it and you say, okay, well, I don't want to contribute to a system that hurts animals that are our friends.
I haven't eaten an animal in 13 years, and it wasn't even a thought before that. I just was going through as a mindless consumer, and I took a mushroom and it said, stop eating your friends. So we stopped. Simple. The messages are all around you. Like, like, look, I'm not saying that's ever anyone else's trip. That was literally my trip. And I took that on, and I think it's served my body and my spirit. So, you just got it. Just like that was just about listening to something bigger than me. And like when I think of like what we were put here to do, it's like, to me, if we're aware of an ancient ripple that's been happening since the beginning of humanity, of chillness, like the kind of this shit that keeps everything on the rails, if we're aware of that ripple, and it's the same one that's been happening since the beginning of time, it's chillness. If we're aware of it and we can cultivate that within ourselves and amplify it within the world, I think what we're doing is the antidote to like what most people are being force fed by corporate media. Like, we're saying, don't be scared. Like, look at it. Like, we're all here. We're here. Like, let's do something cool. Let's not cower, because that's the way they want us. And like that's to me the main driving force is like, how do they want us? The people, the reptilians, how do they want us behaving? I will live my life to do everything to not be like that. And it's actually become very magical in the process.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we are kind of up near that time, and this feels like a good bookend if I've ever felt one. So I do want to give you guys a moment to just kind of guess platform anything that you may want. I know you have this film. I don't know when it's going to be out, but you also have a lot of other films and a lot of other ways people can engage with you. So yeah, I'm just going to leave the floor for you guys to just kind of tell people where to find you and what's going on.
Okay, all our films are available at veryape.tv, veryape.tv. And we also have a Patreon community, which is accessible through the Church of Chill tab on that website, but that's patreon.com/churchofchill. Part of being part of our Patreon, which is $2 a month or pay anything, is Sean does a music mix a week. So he curates a musical journey and vibration that is a great thing to walk to, draw to, anything to kind of create this sacred space where you can kind of tap into yourself and listen. We have a podcast that we do pretty much weekly, and on the Patreon there's an afterglow to our podcast. We have a very vibrant Discord community from people from all over the world. We're doing a film club once a week now. We're starting to do more in-person events. Our first one is April 19th.
Bicycle Day.
Bicycle Day at Psychedelic Assembly in New York City. So join us for that. We're going to be screening a couple of our films. And we have something called Space Camp, which we do at this campgrounds in Ohio in July 25th, around then. So.
July 25th to the 27th at a thing called Grateful Fest. We're doing the Church of Chill Space Camp, and it's a camp out at Nelson Ledges Quarry Park. So if you made it this far and you're hearing that, you would love coming to this. Yeah, check out our podcast. Like Cass said, each podcast, it's on YouTube and all podcast platforms, but then part 2 is behind the paywall on the Patreon. Yeah, support our Patreon. It's the best way of supporting us. And like Cass said, it's only $2 a month or whatever.
And if you are someone who has all the money and you want to invest in artists, and we always have ideas and we're making movies, so we're always seeking angel investors and executive producers.
We need executive producers and angel investors for the next few films. Calling that in.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this is the podcast that calls them in. I don't know if I have any producers that listen, but you never know.
Never know.
Well, they might not be producers yet. That's the cool thing about working with us. Is like we've been a lot of people's first credit. So
yeah. Yeah, love that. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This was, I think, a very useful conversation. I mean, it was for myself, so I
Us
can only
too.
speak
Good
for so
brain.
many people. Yeah, it's a really
You're the
good
best.
time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Peace, love, and magic.
All right, y'all, that was the episode. Thank you so much for listening all the way through until the end. I truly do make this show for you. Once more, that was Sean and Cass from Very Ape TV. If you want to follow them, head on over to veryape.tv. And you can see all of their films. You can see what they have going on, listen to their podcast, join their community. The whole thing is available. It is the internet. We have that at our fingertips. If you want to support this show, head on over to patreon.com/21st Century Vitalism and consider becoming a patron. Any little bit helps. I get it though. Finances are a bit tenuous right now. So you're also welcome to just subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook. Do the whole thing. It's the digital age shuffle. You know how it goes. So once more, thank you so much, and we will catch you on the next episode.